Good morning on this, let's see, 9th day of October in the year of our Lord 2025. It's almost 20 minutes after 6 in the morning here. It's weird. I'm looking at the reflection of the stuff behind me and I can't tell what it is. What is that? Okay. I'm not seeing the thing to my right. It's a reflection of something. Oh, I see. It's over there. Weird. I could put on more light, but I don't want to. It isn't as dark here as it is on camera. Anyway, thought I'd get started early today. Starting on Thursday mornings at 8 in the morning Pacific time means there's a greater than 50-50 chance that my internet connection will fail. I'm trying to get things together to give up on Verizon and get Spectrum or Frontier. But there's some snags, some things in the way. Like a 3-year contract. I'm not sure how far into the 3 years I am. And the money I owe for the internet device. I think my phone is paid for, my cell phone, but not the modem. Son of a gun. Anyway, there's so much happening, I don't know where to begin. We're in fire season. It peaks in October in California, especially Southern California, which is, well, a lot of our land is desert. It's dry, doesn't get a lot of rain. And when it does, the rain runs off into streams and rivers and so forth, or into flash floods, which can be devastating. I was watching a YouTube video about beekeepers, not just in California, although they focus on California. Their bees need more forage to survive, and we hope they will thrive. Well, hi, Parmenides, welcome in. I have someone to chat with. Well, the bees need forage. Now, they're used to pollinate crops, but they need more than that. They need a variety of food, and they need plenty of it. But our crazy environmental laws are keeping them off of state forest land and other state property based on a really wacky theory that bees would compete with natural wild pollinators. They actually don't. They can, they've traditionally let bees into forest land to pollinate the wildflowers there, and the trees, and to get food, nectar, and they take a bit of pollen home to the hive as well. It sticks to them. Well, anyway, on top of that, there's this mite that has killed entire beehives. Wiping out the people the beekeepers who provide pollinators for our crops. And many of our crops, especially tree nuts like almonds, but also things you wouldn't think of like watermelons, they need bees to pollinate them in order to get the food that we eat. Well, this mite is a big problem, but starving bees because some wild pollinator lives in the forest, but they don't actually compete for food, that's a big problem. Anyway, typical California politics. Darn thing went out. How would you like to have healthier forests with less danger of wildfires? Well, in California especially, logging has been cut down to almost nothing. Our forests are overgrown, mostly because they were originally planted by loggers who overplanted while planning to come back in 10 or 20 years and cut down excess trees to make the forest healthier by thinning it out. And they're not allowed to anymore. We had a wildfire recently that burned down Pacific Palisades and a good portion of Altadena for a number of reasons, a number of failures. First off, the reservoir was empty, so the politicians are trying to convince us that water wouldn't put out a fire. Really? Evil Verizon. Evil. Can't believe I lost the connection. Okay, partly because there was a fire in the state forest near Palisades, Pacific Palisades, a wealthy area with mansions and so forth. And the fire department put it out. But they left piles of embers that were still smoking. And they didn't come back. You're supposed to come back about 3 days later to check on it. They never did. And those glowing embers restarted the fire. Why don't we clear the brush or thin out the trees or at least remove dead trees? Oh, there's endangered species there, and there's rats and mice and squirrels and owls and snakes and lizards and fish. Yeah, there's fish because there's streams of running water. So the few survivors, I don't know how long I was off. The habitat is destroyed by fire. So the few survivors of the disaster don't have homes, don't have food, don't have a chance. But we're saving endangered species. by allowing wildfires to destroy their homes and their food supplies and themselves. Oh, by the way, they have arrested an arsonist for starting that fire in the Palisades. But no, it's climate change. We fare better here. We're in national forest. The federal government does a better job of mitigating fire hazards in the forest. Oh, by the way, I've learned something interesting. YouTube has failed to um, notify my subscribers when I'm going live. It turns out that they kind of scale back on notifications unless you get a lot of likes on your videos. So if I get a bunch of likes on my videos, they'll start sending out those notifications to people who subscribed and want to be notified. So Parmenides, yeah, they caught an arsonist, arrested him. That he's innocent till proven guilty. Oh, you were in Santa Clarita? Yeah, they have a. They often have. I mean, every year they have a severe water shortage in that area. It's north of Los Angeles, near the coast. Hi, Jan Miller. Good morning, and welcome in. So I guess I have to push all my listeners to press that thumbs up like button because YouTube doesn't send out notifications unless you get a lot of likes on your videos. Even though you subscribed and rang the bell and want all notifications, they won't send it because I don't get a million likes. It's ridiculous. And I'm not monetized, have no plans to get monetized, at least not at this point. YouTube has changed their policy. It used to be if your video was monetized, you could choose how many ads to run on your video and where to place them. Now, YouTube does all that themselves. And there's nothing more aggravating than watching a video where someone's in the middle of a sentence and they pop in an ad for the pink salt recipe to lose weight or some other scam. There's a bunch of them now. One is to some kind of nanoparticle something to make your car shiny and repel water. It'll probably ruin your paint job. Oh, and there's a thing to cover scratches, a little liquid that you kind of paint on with a brush or a Q-tip. That's been around for decades. They sell it at auto parts stores a lot cheaper than what you'd pay for some website to mail it to you. And they'll do for small scratches. But you keep in mind that what they're doing is melting into the existing paint around the scratch to cover it. So you're thinning the paint near the scratch. Um, I bought one of those scams. Just thought I'd try it out and see. A stiff wire head for your weed whacker to replace the nylon cord that's always breaking and failing to feed and so forth. They didn't send me anything till I requested a refund through PayPal. And then a week after that, they sent this thing. It wasn't what I ordered. It took me 2 months, but I got my money back. And I haven't seen ads for that again. Not lately. I think somebody finally figured out that they're a scam. Really, don't do that pink salt recipe to lose weight. It's something like vinegar and salt and something else. It'll make you so sick you don't want to eat. You're better off to just avoid processed foods. Keep in mind that processed is a wobbly definition. Cheese is processed. All cheese, it's processed. Doesn't mean it isn't good for you. Now, there are cheeses like American cheese and Velveeta that also contain oils, seed oils. Those can contribute to inflammation, but frankly, if you like American cheese or you like Velveeta, just don't eat it every day. Make it a treat. Simple, reasoning. If you're going carnivore, I feel sorry for you. I love my fruits and veggies. And I'm still not gaining weight, which I need to do. Oh, back to the forest, now that I actually have an internet connection for sure. Wouldn't it be nice to have the forests made healthier and have less fire hazard in the forest at no cost to the taxpayers and possibly with a bonus in taxes paid for the privilege of making the forests healthier? How about let's get back to logging. The logging industry in California, a once thriving industry that provided good paying jobs and kept the forest healthy because, let's face it, loggers don't want to destroy the source of their income, the forest. They take good care of it and they know what they're doing. They thin out overcrowded trees. They remove dead trees and clear the brush. And on the whole, all the critters that environmentalists want to protect are better off. This is not the age of robber barons who would just walk in and take everything of value and destroy what's left. This is the age of good management by people who know what they're doing. Okay, enough said about the forest. I'm just ticked off. Our national forest is better cared for, but they really need to let some loggers in, and they just might do that. We have trees so crowded that 2 trees will share one trunk, but you can tell it's 2 trees because 6 feet or less above the ground, 2 trunks divide like a V. It isn't one tree. You can see the seams where the first few feet of the trunk are really two trunks. Who runs the forestry? Well, the federal government runs the national forests, but Governor Gruesome Newscomb in Sacramento runs the California state forests. And it's almost always the state forests that cause disasters when they burn. We've had fires in the national forest, usually set by either negligence or arson by humans. But we didn't have a whole community burned to the ground like Pacific Palisades and Altadena in that recent fire. For one thing, our reservoirs are full. We have water. For another, the Forest Service is always clearing brush, doing controlled burns, and taking out dead trees. It's a little different in the areas with, the communities with homes, but for some time now, the Edison Company, Southern California Edison, the electric company, has been removing trees that are hazardous to its power lines, which are still up in the air, not underground. I have mixed feelings about underground power, but that's another story. But hazardous trees are being either trimmed or removed by the utility company because they don't want their power lines to start a fire. We had an arson fire called the Line Fire a couple years ago. I'm kind of vague on exactly when it was. It was set by an arsonist who is, I haven't heard that he's actually had his trial, but I do know he's locked up. One house burned down. One house on the mountain. It was on the rim. Oh, hi, Anthony. Welcome in. I couldn't sleep. And the cats found out. Let's see if you can see Tora. She's sleeping peacefully on her heating pad and pillow, which used to be my heating pad and pillow. She claimed them as her own. So I have now a replacement heating pad and a replacement pillow. So every time I get up to get a cup of coffee or whatever, Tora decides to claim my pillow and heating pad again. And I can't sit on top of the cat penthouse. I would fit on it, but I would also break it. I weigh a lot more than a 10-pound cat. Oh, Tora, are you dreaming? Sweetie? Are you okay, sweetie? I don't know if you can hear it. She's making a sound. Such a pretty kitty. Yes, she is. Yeah. The Australians sent firefighters to help. They do that quite often, actually. And they really know what they're doing. Sometimes I wonder how these cities like Los Angeles can seriously cut funding for the fire department because they're running. Oh, you did hear Tora. Yeah, she's kind of humming a high pitched hum. Well, how can you cut funds for firefighting when they're already understaffed and half their equipment is in for repairs, but you cut the funding so they can't hire mechanics to repair their trucks and so forth. And then empty a reservoir, the water source for a town, so you can repair the cover that keeps insects out of the water. And a year later, it's still empty because they haven't done the repairs, and nobody thought, well, maybe in fire season we ought to let some water into that reservoir. It wasn't like water wasn't available, they just diverted it elsewhere. So there was no water to put out the fire in the Pacific Palisades. Gorgeous, wealthy community near the ocean, near Los Angeles, the city. Gorgeous. No water. However, a little lower below the community that burned was a development that had been planned specifically to resist fire because fires happen. They didn't lose any homes. An entire community that was built recently and planned. They were allowed to clear the brush in that community. In Pacific Palisades, the homeowners were not allowed to create a safe space around their own property. Well, hi, P.O. Welcome in. Once again, if you want to start getting notifications when I go live, apparently YouTube wants you to like and like and like. Click that thumbs up button. If I don't get a lot of likes on my videos, they quit sending notifications to the very people who ask to be notified. And they complained to me in chat, I didn't get a notification. I just happened to notice that you were online, on live. Wow, your firefighters are unpaid volunteers in Australia. We do have some unpaid volunteers. Here, over here. Oh, Pio got the notification after he refreshed the page, and he was already here. Uh-huh. Ordinarily, I'd start this between 7:30 and 8 in the morning, but today I decided to start at about, I think it was about 20 minutes after, no, 6. I think it was 6:18 to be precise. Jeez Louise, what a day, what a year, what a week, month, and year. Apparently there is a deal, or almost a deal, in the Middle East involving Israel and Palestine. Let's see, the FBI under President Biden spied on 8 U.S. senators and 1 representative. Oh, you got your money from sick leave. Good, Pio. Glad to hear it. Oh, I cooked something very special, but it isn't on video, Jan. Anyway, let's see. Um, I made a cake with what I had on hand. Let me get the cake and show it to you. Oh, Lord. Hobble, hobble. I used a disposable, I don't know, I thought it was a pie tin, but I think it's really a cake pan for making layer cakes where you stack them up. I made 2 of them, but one has gone to a new home. I don't want to take off the lid because it's so hard to put it back on. But see, it's a cake. Now, let's get. I used a box mix. I have made cakes from scratch. I don't think it's worth the trouble. But I don't follow the instructions. First off, it says to add half a cup of oil. You know, salad oil, cooking oil. Nah, not going there. I melt a stick of butter. 1 stick of butter in the brands that I buy is half a cup, so I don't even have to measure it. I don't have an oily measuring cup. And then it says add half a cup of water. Yeah, right. Water has so much flavor. I usually add half a cup of milk. But this particular concoction, I think the milk would have curdled. Not good. I was adding cherries. I had some cherries that were made for fruit cake, and I soaked them in orange juice for 3 hours. And I had a few maraschino cherries in the little jar full of liquid. So when I added the fruit, I also added the orange juice and the liquid from the bottle of maraschino cherries. Because this cake contains not only the cherries, but also a can of crushed pineapple. Is it crushed? I think that's what they call it. Yeah, crushed. So between the liquid from the cherries and the liquid from the can of pineapple, the cake had plenty of liquid without going with water or milk. Oh my. And because the maraschino liquid is dyed red, the cake is pink. I'm wondering if RFK banning certain food dyes would be relevant here. I forgot to look at the label and see what kind of red food dye they used on the cherries. But really, in a slice of cake, it's such a small amount. As long as you don't sit and eat the whole cake all by yourself, it's probably okay. Oh, I made 2 cakes, 2 small cakes, and 8 cupcakes. I ate 5 cupcakes in a row. I couldn't stop myself. I gave away the other 3 cupcakes and one of the cakes. Yeah, they're small cakes because they're made to stack together, but I have two people who I promised them cakes. Uh, so I can't touch this one either. Let's see. It's so hard to put the lid on. I don't want to try taking it off, but it's nice. Now, from time to time, I send something off in a container that I want back. Well, my cookbook doesn't have this. I'm working on a second cookbook with the things I'm learning. My son reminded me that while he was growing up, I did make meatloaf and lasagna at home, but I had not done that in years. So I had to kind of relearn it. I do have a cooking channel. Apparently, you cannot find it by searching Kitchen Challenged Cook. And I don't have the link on me at the moment. So some other time I'll post it in the comments or something. But I just make short videos. I don't go through. Well, for one thing, I don't want you learning how to chop vegetables from me because I don't have any knife skills. I'm lucky I still have my fingers. And for another, I haven't figured out how to edit a video. And I'm using my phone for the camera because my computer camera is not portable. I can't take it into the kitchen. Oh, thank you, Jan. I do try to eat healthy, but I do love Twinkies and Pringles and all kinds of nasty stuff that I've been avoiding because I want to be healthier. That's why I'm making my own cakes. No Twinkies. And I'm baking potatoes and frying potatoes and mashing potatoes and even making popcorn on the stovetop to replace potato chips. I gotta make a quick break. I drank too much coffee, but I'll be back, so don't go away. Yeah, let's put this away. Uh, uh, oh Lord, won't you buy me a good kitty cat? Ah, come on, hurry up. My cats are all bad and they're big and they're fat. So Lord, won't you buy me a good kitty cat? I think I'm back. Looks like me. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna make a fancy thing like beef Wellington. And the things I do make, I take shortcuts. I learned from watching cooking shows like Chef Jean Pierre that canned tomatoes are not only acceptable, they're usually better than the fresh ones because the best tomatoes that they harvest that are fully ripe go into the cans. They can't survive being packed and shipped to your grocery store. So they're in the cans. I kind of wonder about some brands. I try to read all the ingredients, even though they're in teeny tiny print. I don't want any nasty ingredients in my tomatoes. But lately I've been sticking to either Del Monte or a store brand or generic brand. I've been avoiding Hunt's and other brands. I also avoid the ones with flavors. Well, if I'm just eating tomatoes, ripe but not cooked, I grow tomatoes every year. And if I have to get them at the store, I get cherry tomatoes or those, what are they called? They're kind of oval shaped. The little tomatoes tend to be packed with flavor. Yeah, I like to use oatmeal in meatloaf. Some people use breadcrumbs. You can mash up some soda crackers into tiny pieces. You can Mom used Rice Krispies. I have resorted to Cheerios. Many breakfast cereals, as long as they don't have a bunch of flavors like Fruit Loops or a bunch of sugar, they work pretty well. I avoid the wheat-based breakfast cereals for meatloaf. They do change the flavor and I don't always like it. But oatmeal works well. Soaks up a lot of liquid and doesn't really change the flavor of the meat that you want to eat. Yeah, it is getting colder. My tomato plants are dying. But I'm still getting 3 or 4 tomatoes every week. They're little tiny ones because these plants volunteered. I didn't get to the garden shop to buy seeds or little potted tomato plants, but I've put the remains of the tomatoes back in the garden, whether if I chop them and there's a bunch of seeds that didn't get eaten, or whether the tomato went bad before I had a chance to eat it, I toss them in the garden and they quite often grow and give me more tomatoes. You never know exactly what you're going to get because so many tomatoes are hybrids, so you don't really know what the seeds are going to give you, but they're always tasty. And it has been darn cold. I've had to kick on the heater in the morning once in a while. Oh, the sun's coming up. Finally, it's 7 o'clock in the morning and it's light outside, but not really lighting up much inside. Some people can their tomatoes or bottle them. Some make a sauce and can that or bottle it, but I don't. I do make jam when I have enough fruit to be worth it. But I don't know. Mom used to home can tomatoes and peaches. We always had a huge tomato garden in the backyard, and one of our neighbors had a peach tree. So they'd let us take the peaches and we'd give them canned peaches and peach pies and stuff like that in exchange. or canned tomatoes if that's what they wanted. Mom wasn't all bad, but man, I think she had demons. I know she had demons. I'll tell you about the goulash she used to make. I only recently learned that it was all wrong. She'd crumble some hamburger, also known as minced beef or mince or ground beef, uh, fry it up in the pan, pour in tomato sauce, add chopped onion, and then at the end, when she was sure the hamburger was cooked, she'd toss some noodles on top and stir them in. And if there wasn't enough tomato sauce to cook the noodles, she'd add water, get the noodles soft. Well, the first mistake is you're supposed to fry the onions with the hamburger, not boil them in tomato sauce. The second big mistake was the only spices she used were salt and black pepper. It was kind of like eating ketchup with noodles and bits of ground beef. I served it once to some friends and they called it gruel, referring to that comic strip, The Wizard of Id. Was it gruel or slop? They called it slop too. Because The Wizard of Id was set in the Middle Ages, total comic strip, funny. But there was one character who was always in the dungeon being fed slop. And slop was what you fed to the pigs, because pigs would eat anything. Well, it really works better first if the onions are fried, or if you're my older and smarter brother, no onions. He hates onions. Of course, if he doesn't know there's onions in the meatloaf, he doesn't notice. It's a mental thing. Because Mom cooked them so wrong, they really didn't taste good. So anyway, a little basil. Oh, sometimes Mom would throw in oregano, and I despise oregano. Don't like it. But basil, she thought tossing in oregano made it Italian. I liked it better without it, but basil is good. Or you can even at the end toss some spinach on top. Fresh spinach. Pia likes oregano and good cheese? You mean Gouda? Any kind of cheese is good cheese, I think, except I'm not really thrilled with the stinky ones like blue cheeses. Oh, mozzarella, yeah. It's expensive, so I end up with jack cheese. Yeah, well, I also, now that I'm the cook, I start the hamburger and the onions cooking. And then I add bits, little pieces of carrots and celery, if I have them. And then the tomato sauce and the noodles. It's okay to cook them in the sauce. They have more flavor that way. And I like egg noodles especially. Oh, you guys like pecorino romano? I find it a little bitter. Oh, yeah, focaccia e pepe. That's okay. I forget whether cacio is cheese or oil, or not oil, garlic. I think it's cheese and pepper, yeah, because pecorino romano, cheese isn't in the garlic and pepper, or garlic and something. Oh well, yeah, cheese and pepper. Thank you, Parmenides. See, I get two of Vincenzo's plate recipes mixed up. One is cheese and pepper, and the other is garlic and pepper. And I forget the Italian word for garlic. Yeah, you roast the pepper on the pan, and then you put it in the mortar and grind it because you're using fresh peppercorns. I've seen several YouTube chefs doing that, but the first one and best is always Vincenzo's plate. Good cooking channel, but it's all Italian food except for one time he made fried rice to impress Uncle Roger. I guess he did it twice because the first time Uncle Roger tore apart it the way he did it, so he had to do it again to get back in his good graces. Yeah, my main objection to Italian food, at least in the US, is that it has oregano. I hate oregano. When I make my version of Italian spices, I do put in a pinch of oregano, but then I add basil instead. It kind of has to have a little kick from oregano, but not a lot. Oh, Jan Miller is back, I guess. Looks like it. So anyway, now you've got me off on cooking. I've made cakes from scratch. Not worth the extra work, in my opinion. Oregano is kind of bitter underneath. It has a flavor, but underneath that flavor is a strong bitterness. Oh, hi, Angus. Welcome in. We're just chatting away. Been on for almost an hour, 55 minutes. We're almost into the time when I usually come on live on Thursday mornings, but I have to get away from that because the Verizon internet connection is so unreliable, and that's when other people wake up and start using the internet too, so they throttle my service in order to provide a stable connection for their business customers who need to process credit cards and such. Hmm. Let's see. So, cakes from scratch. If you don't have a cake mix, I can find my recipe and make one with flour and sugar and baking soda and so forth. Oh, and never forget the eggs. I have a little egg sensitivity, but the eggs in a cake, you know, rather than just eating an egg, uh, they don't bother me. Oh, oregano, poor man's marijuana. One time, God, in like 1970, yeah, I bought what I thought was marijuana. It was catnip. The cat loved it. So that's the only time I ever bought any of that crap off the street. Except the time Mom sold me this little bottle of pills and they did nothing. She had bought something that was just chalk, nothing in it. So she sold it to her daughter. I wanted to try it. Didn't do anything. Waste of time and money. It's just as well. I have what they call adverse reactions. Some cold medications make me so wired I can't go to sleep when I want to. And when doctors have given me stimulants, they knocked me out and I slept for 8 hours. Exactly. They're all weed, P.O. So, anyway, I'm just not into drugs. Not even the ones the doctor prescribes. Yeah, she charged me $10 for a bottle of nothing. Jan, my own mother. Anyway, when I make meatloaf, sometimes I put in a pinch of oregano, but I usually hold it back for things like spaghetti. I'm glad CBD works for you, Angus. I bought some very legal medical CBD gummies that were supposed to help me sleep. They didn't even taste good and they didn't do anything. Yeah. Well, fresh basil I like because if you think it's too much, you can just put it aside and not eat it on your plate. Uh, Oregano, I'm told that there's a Mexican oregano, or some people say oregano if they're British. Uh, there's no getting away from that stuff. Even the smell of it does bad things to me. Oh, Parmenides, I have melatonin. I haven't bothered with it for quite a while because I'm actually sleeping okay without it. And I've found that quite often it's an allergy that's keeping me awake. So I take an allergy medication. Tardive dyskinesia. Oh man, Angus has kinetic problems. That's not good. Don't tell me it's natural as you get older. Arsenic is natural. I'm still not going to take it. It's poison. Yeah, I had a basil plant doing very nicely, Pio, till the cats discovered it. I can't grow it outside because of our cold winters. But the cats discovered my little potted basil and destroyed it. They even peed in the pot. They thought it was cat litter, I guess. Oh, Haldol. Yeah, haloperidol. Nasty stuff. Why'd they give you that shit? Ooh, I said a bad word. I'll have to put a quarter in the swear box. Yeah. Uh-huh. Figures. Yeah, I was once diagnosed as autistic when I was a young teenager. It was learned behavior from the devil's sister that I called mom. But I originally, once I was out on my own, away from a toxic family, especially mom, but to some extent dad, because he went along with it. I learned social skills from books and from just trying to hang out with other people at the junior college. Mostly sitting there quietly watching and listening to them. Sorry about that. It's my morning cough session. I heard all about Haldol from several of my relatives who were working at state hospitals, and um, they were complaining that it was really awful, the Haldol. I hate it when someone has a health problem and, oh, there's a pill for that. Why don't you look at your lifestyle? Do you sit at a desk all day? Of course you're gaining weight. Except for me, I can't gain weight and I need to. And what are you eating? Are you sitting there munching on fast food and sugary snacks and crackers? Ooh, well, I like crackers, but I like them with cheese. Cheese is good stuff. Uh, my dad was in good shape when he was doing physical work as a, let's see, they called him a sheet metal engineer, standing there tooling various metals into actual products. Then he got a desk job as an accountant and he started packing on the weight. Oh man, yeah. When they give you a pill for that and then you get side effects, well, there's a pill for the side effects. Some people are on like 6 medications every day. Oh, Pio. I think what it is so many of us don't get properly socialized. We don't know how to interact with others. And we're not unhappy, but they're unhappy with the way we act. So why don't they give them a pill to make them more tolerant? instead of giving us a pill to make us conform. I was put on medication for epilepsy, and I didn't really have epilepsy. I had nightmares, and when you're asleep, you're not supposed to be able to move. Well, I'd have nightmares and actually be moving my arms and legs, kicking at some monster in my nightmare. When you're dreaming, your body is not supposed to be able to do that. But I was put on Dilantin and phenobarbital to the point where I was like a zombie walking around when I was 16 and 17. When I was out on my own, I quit taking the pills and I did much better. Actually, my husband told me to quit taking those pills. He could tell that the pills were the problem. Well, yeah. Well, Pio, I don't want you to be negative, but that's for your own good, not for other people. Like, well, I don't say, I have to wash the dishes. I say, oh boy, I get to wash the dishes. And think of having all those clean dishes and clean hands and so forth, and a neat, organized kitchen instead of, oh, I hate washing dishes. It works for me. Yeah, we need tolerant pills to make people more compassionate and sympathetic to people who are having a bad day. I've found, for example, when someone's being a little ornery around me, if instead of complaining, oh, you're so negative, if I just say, man, things must be bad for you, want to talk about it? They'll relax and quite often say, oh, it isn't that bad, I'm just being a little ornery today. And other times they'll harangue me for an hour about all their problems, and I just keep saying, oh, that's too bad. And how can we change that? I'm turning into a therapist, and I don't really respect therapists. Yeah, psychiatrists want to adjust you to fit the society you're in. Some of the weirdest people in history invented great things or wrote great books, or went into politics or the church or some corporation or small business and did wonderful things. Yeah, that's what the Soviet Union did, Angus. Just like 1984 and that film, THX 1138. They put you in the loony bin. They put you in a mental hospital if you don't agree with Stalin or Khrushchev. Oh yeah, it's always you're the problem because you don't go along with the crowd. What people used to say to me is, if the crowd jumped off a cliff, would you follow them? And I'm like, no. In fact, hell no. Another curse word. Let me see if I got a quarter for the curse jar. I said two bad words tonight. Yeah, I've got 2 quarters. Well, if I turn my hand, I'll drop them. So I'll turn the camera. Come on. I'm still very bad on camera skills. I don't have any. Come on. There they are. 2 quarters for the swear jar. Oh. Oh. Pio remembers a story about a Hungarian being kept for 50 years in a Russian psych ward in Siberia. He only got out because a Hungarian doctor got to intern there, and his only problem was he only spoke Hungarian. They thought he was muttering nonsense. Ooh, the light's coming in to the house. Good. Oh, I have stuff to do. I'm still searching for things that disappeared 5 years ago. I'm still ticked off about it. Oh well. Really, I gotta quit being angry and start doing something about it. The guy's name was Andras Toma. Okay. The Hungarian. Wow. Yeah, I gotta get going soon. I've been here over an hour. Thank you for being here, Parmenides. It's always good to see you. Mm. Wow. Let's see. Oh, the National Guard is going to Chicago after all. Oregon is still a problem, so there's some court order, an injunction. They can't send the National Guard to keep order on the streets of Portland, Oregon. But the National Guard, they're like a militia. They're military. They were sent to the ICE facility to protect that building. They just can't go out on the street and keep order. And there's an appeal of that judge's order. We'll see what happens. But in Chicago, the National Guard is there, and President Trump is threatening to arrest the governor of Illinois and the mayor of Chicago, Illinois, because some ICE agents in an ICE vehicle were attacked. So one vehicle rammed them and pushed them off the road, and then they're saying 10 vehicles surrounded the ICE vehicle so that it couldn't move. And then one woman got out of her car with a gun in her hand. There's conflicting stories about whether she actually shot at the ICE agents, but they shot her. She did not die. She went to the hospital. The police were told to back off and not interfere. The woman drove away trying to get to the hospital, and then the Chicago police rescued her and took her to the hospital, and apparently she was shot in one arm and one leg, not life-threatening. But they were called off and told not to interfere with the trouble the ICE agents were in, being surrounded by rowdy protesters in their cars. So apparently that's illegal. When someone's life is being threatened, you can't refuse to respond to the call. But some supervisor, following the various laws in the city of Chicago, were ordered to just stay away. Oh, Jan is back. Okay. Well, I was talking about Chicago, Illinois, and Portland, Oregon. It reminds me of, I'm naming the states, but it reminds me of my former daughter in law. May she rest in peace. Wouldn't take her blood pressure meds and died of a stroke. Um, my son was explaining the map of the United States to her, and somehow it came up that we are all U.S. citizens. We live in the United States. And she looked at him and said, I thought we lived in California. She didn't know that California was part of the United States. So much for the state of education in California. And that brings me to that Puerto Rican singer who's going to perform at the Super Bowl. He honestly did not know that he's a U.S. citizen. He's Puerto Rican. Their schools aren't any better than California, I guess. He didn't know that all Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens. I agree with you, Pio, about those people who refused to help out ICE when they were being physically attacked. Run off the road, woman with a gun, surrounded by cars so they couldn't move. It was resolved. Everybody survived, but it had to be very frightening. I imagine the protesters probably cleared off when shots were fired. So anyway, there's a big federal investigation to find out who gave the order to stand down and not help. Yeah. And they're threatening to arrest the mayor and the governor over this and other problems. They have to have the National Guard at the ICE facility because the protesters will not allow the ICE agents to come and go in their cars. They block the driveway, and when they see a car that wants in or out, they surround it and then complain, oh, he tried to run me over. Well, why were you standing in front of his car? Excuse me? I'm getting nervous talking about that. I do have some worries about the current administration in Washington, D.C. I hold back on some of my ideas because they might get me into trouble. But I'm not talking about violence, just ideas, political ideas. But frankly, the alternative was not acceptable. We have what we have. Both the Democrats and the Republicans tend to choose their nominees. So you have to, when you vote, you have to choose between Cinderella's stepsisters. And you know what they say, each one was uglier than the other. In 2016, Donald Trump was a wild card. He was a lifelong Democrat, but he saw that his party had selected Hillary Clinton. So, in order to run for president, he took over the Democrat Party, which was pretty much falling apart, had been for over a decade. But in 2020, Trump was selected. And then Kamala was selected. Didn't I say Republican? Now, the Democrats were in charge under 2 terms of Bill Clinton and 2 terms of Barack Obama. That's 16 years of Democrat rule. And the Democrats pretty much had the House and the Senate under those presidents. Now, in between, there was George W. Bush. Totally. He gave a good speech. I wonder who wrote it for him. But, and, 9/11 happened under George Bush, and then we had invaded Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11. Oh, well. Anyway, and then 2 terms of Obama. So Trump took over the Republican Party because the Democrats had already selected Hillary Clinton. And he did not have a majority in the Congress. The Democrats fought him all the way. And then we got 4 years of Joe Biden, the Democrat, and now we're back to Trump. But this time, the Republicans selected him. They don't usually do that. They did for George Bush, God only knows why. Okay, George Bush, the father, who was Ronald Reagan's vice president and then became president for 1 term, he was a CIA man. But at least he wasn't stupid. Honestly, his son, George W. Bush, when he went to college, I forget whether it was Harvard or Yale or somewhere else, he got the gentleman's C, a passing grade just because you're a gentleman. He should have failed. I hear something beeping, and it's probably my modem. Yep. Okay. It's almost time I said Democrat, huh? Well, they're all Republicans and Demoblicans. Demoblicans and Republicans. But Trump was a lifelong Democrat. But he couldn't get a nomination as a Democrat. It was all sewn up. They selected their candidates. And the Republicans were just so disorganized. They did select the George Bushes. See how that turned out? People were beginning to suspect, if not confirm, that it didn't matter who you voted for because both parties were just selecting another stupid politician who could be manipulated, or another radical politician who would do things that the voters didn't like and screw the voters. Ooh, another bad word. I'm up to 3/4 in the swear jar today. I don't know. It's crazy. Well, I might as well stay on for a few minutes. Let me get a cup of water. It's empty. Oh, oh Lord, won't you buy me a good kitty cat? My cats are all bad and they're big and they're fat. So Lord, won't you buy me a good kitty cat? Okay, thanks for being here, Pio. Anyway, I have got to get going. People who look for me at 8 a.m., I'm sorry. My internet is failing anyway. What the heck? Did someone delete their posts? Oh no, they're here. Okay, I'm going to cut out now and get something to eat. So, let's see. Remember, if you keep hitting that like button, the thumbs up, more people will actually get notifications. I'm trying to talk and type at the same time. So thank you all for... Hi, I keep hitting Q instead of W. um, well, Jan Miller, I always need stuff, but now I wrote winter instead of with. I think I've got what I need for winter: blankets and coats and boots and socks. So thank you for chatting with me and have a great day. I'm going to need a computer soon, but I think my son is actually going to come through for me this time. He's not wealthy, but he's a good son. Okay? It's been really nice having a long chat, but it's been an hour and a half. It's 7:45 in the morning here. So I will see you later. Bye.